Kassi, what exactly is an intuitive artist?
I believe an intuitive artist is somebody who paints from the heart and soul. It's being connected to your own spiritual self as well as the spirit around you. I believe it's sort of taking in all the energy of everything that you've been feeling and thinking and just allowing yourself to create with flow. Is that like that's what's difference between an intuitive artist and a technical artist. A technical artist has an idea and follows it through. Intuitive artist is just it goes with the flow and just trusts themselves just to put their spiritual self, emotional self, energetic self on paper.
Oh, lovely. That's nice and succinct. So, yes, and of course, I've seen a lot of your work now, and it's just beautiful. So, very nice. So, would you share with our listeners and our readers your creation process of a typical piece of art, and also the associated healing modality?
Okay, for the people who don't know me, I'm an intuitive artist who paints people's spirit animals. So, how I do that is firstly, I need to connect with the person that I want to create their spirit animal portrait with. And I do that through meditation and just intentions, allowing my energy to connect with theirs. I do require permission with this because it is an energetic process. And once I feel within meditation, I meet their animal as well as come within their energy, I just turn on my computer and I draw or paint at my workshop and I just allow it to come through and see what happens. And there's a lot of layers that come with this because usually it starts with just a sketch and then I get a reading from the sketch and things always come through me and I just write notes as well as do art, write notes and, as well as do art and I just allow it to flow, flow, flow. And people who've been on my readings can see I'm sort of in between worlds and I'm sort of stopping, starting, just so I can make sure the message that's coming through is very clear because it's about the other person. It's not about my energy, it's about their energy. And I need to make sure that I'm really aligned with the person that I'm reading for. And once I get the final process, like final product or the final portrait done, sometimes I'll put my artistic touches on it as well, just to sort of make it more magical. Because when I see them in real life, they are magical. They are shining. They are a great presence. And most spirit animals I've came usually come with a great message that comes through wanting to connect with that person. Sometimes they just want to say, I'm here, but sometimes they have something profound to share through my art as well. A lot of people say my arts are kind of like portals, so they can see the messages for themselves, and that's my intentions when I first start, is to create a connection with the people so they can learn to connect with their spirit animals as well. It's not just me saying this is your spirit animals, go off, this is a message. It's a continuing process of where they can learn to connect with their spirit animals without the assistance of me as well. And that's basically how I do it. There's a lot of meditations and usually a bit of training for the other person so they can use my portrait to connect with their spirit animal further so they can learn to have their own connection with it, not just what I say to them.
That's very good.
Hmm.
So, apart from being an intuitive artist, you're also a spirit walker, and
Hmm.
that's some terminology that probably isn't out there a lot. So perhaps we should also define for the readership and the listeners what a spirit walker is.
It was very interesting because I've always been, I call it interdimensional being. Like, I know that I'm a physical presence and I'm a physical person, but I guess my conscious mind or subconscious mind seems to see both worlds at once. I see the more supernatural world at times. Sometimes I can turn it off, sometimes I have no control of it. But also, I see the natural world how we see it on a physical plane. So, there's at times in my life, sometimes I can will it into existence, sometimes it just happens to me. um, it's just like I'm walking on two dimensions. I see things that aren't there energetically. And usually I know people by little stories that present themselves with people. I might see like a color, maybe a flower or something on their
Mhm.
shoulder, just to sort of say, this is what this person's like. I'm not sure if that's part of my gift or something that my nan showed me when I was younger, because my psychic gifts is something that's in our family as well.
Mm.
But it was something that frightened me at first, but something I've come to terms with and learned to live with. And going to ask other people, I've got the title Spirit Walker, and that's how I've sort of presented it in life, is just the understanding that I walk between the dimensions. So I hope that helps. It's a very complicated one, that one.
It's funny you should talk about that. I can see auras, and you have the most beautiful green aura around you at the moment.
Hmm.
In fact, there's
Yes.
yeah, it's just stunning. Mm,
I've been doing a lot of work on my heart chakra, as I said to you, Sharon.
yeah,
I lost my father at the start of the year, so I've had to do a lot of healing around loss and getting used to his transition into the next world as well.
I think he's actually with you. I just saw a face pop out from behind you.
Yes,
It
so
kind of yeah,
I trust that as well. I
yeah.
I brought him a ring, like, because I believe in little totems as well. I brought him a ring that was for his birthday present, and just before he passed away, he left it with me. So it's kind of like a little totem for me to remember him by,
Oh,
which is very sacred to me as well.
yeah.
And so I trust that.
Yes. No, that's wonderful. I just had a metaphysical night here, and we did some psychometry. So next time we get together, I'll have a go with your ring and see what I come up with.
I'd love to. I'd love to come around. That sounds really exciting.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a funny evening. It was mostly newbies and just a few spiritual people. Bit of a faker was there though. There was you know how you can spot them a mile away once you've been.
Yes.
I look at them as entertainment now, so yeah. I, you know,
Oh,
as long as you can spot them, that's the point. If you can't spot them, that's the worry. Mm,
I can understand them. Like there's a place they want to be, but they're not doing the work to get there. They're sort of
yeah,
wanting things to just happen for them. And sometimes
exactly.
it's a process.
It also I think a lot of the time they think things are more glamorous and not as much work as they really are, and so it seems to attract this area seems to attract a lot of them, but they don't last long because they actually realize that people most people have psychic abilities anyway, so they can smell it a mile away. So
Mm.
anyway, so tell me, what was the impetus for you that led you down this particular career path? Because it's not a normal path that many would tread.
I guess it's a
Apart from
long
your
story.
your
I
ability, of course, your talent. Yeah.
I guess it's coming back to self. There's always a journey that everybody takes to be a part of what they think's normal, what's real, what they're being told.
Hmm.
And it's always something I've had. I've always been creative. I've always been able to talk to other worlds. I've always been able to talk to guardians, spirits. And I lost my mum at a very young age, so I was always able to talk to her. But there was that stage just out of high school where you're being told you really have to be like everyone else. So I've done retail, I've done a lot of very practical jobs and was quite successful at them. And trying to keep the more psychic stage of me in part of the shadows. Like I didn't tell anyone about it. I totally disconnected. It wasn't important to me. Just being able to succeed at life was important to me. But I found myself be quite successful, but quite really sad and disturbed and
Unfulfilled.
unfulfilled. And I really was going to that path where I thought I might kill myself. I hate saying that because I hate to admit that, but I just got that really, really dark period of this is not who I am. What am I doing here? And I really think I asked God and the angels to help me with this. I sort of said, why am I so creative and trying to be in this world? And when they told me the answer and got me the help I needed, it was quite simple. I just had to be myself and forget about what I've been taught. And I think this is a path that most supernatural psychic people go on.
mm,
is really rediscovering themselves. And so I did get some help with some psychic meetings and told them what I really enjoyed and I love my art. And they basically said, did you know you could do readings through your art? Do you know that your artwork's real? And this is something that resonated with me because this is stuff that I knew from a kid. Like I knew from a child that this was true, this was happening. So it was just having those prompts to come back to self, to remember myself,
mm,
and to just start doing it again. I think I met you when I was just started the
mm,
path, when I was just starting my readings and that. And I just found how much joy it gave to my life. And I finally felt like I was fulfilling myself and fulfilling my role in this world as well.
mm.
Mm.
And it's you have beautiful, very talented and beautiful pieces. What I'll do with this particular video is instead of looking at me, people will be looking at your beautiful artworks on the other side of the screen. So
Oh, lovely.
yeah, and I prefer that too. So do you receive any healing benefits through your immersion with your art and through spirit walking? It's something normally when I talk to people, they always talk about the energy drain and, oh, after I've done this, I have to go and sleep. But that never ever sat well with me because I would have thought if you're connecting to spirit, it would actually uplift you. But how is it for you? Is it?
To be honest with you, I see every being, every person in that as an entity like me. I never really feel like it's a drain. Yes, sometimes I need to recharge the batteries, and I
Mhm,
think that's like with anybody in life.
mhm,
Sometimes you just push yourself too far, and it's just naturally you need to rest for a while. But there's so much I can learn from other people, and so much I've learned from other people, and I actually get excited about the thought of connecting with people. And there are some times where I feel like a lot of discomfort within my heart or body because when I connect with people, I feel a lot of discomfort. But I think maybe that's where I've learnt the energy of the heart can heal that. The energy of the heart has a lot of energy, and you just focus that love to those parts that are hurting. It
mhm,
helps you as well as the people you're connecting with. And I feel that using the heart energy for a lot of my work doesn't get me tired, doesn't drain me. And every reading, I feel enlightened.
mhm,
Sometimes I feel like I need to have a psychic break because sometimes when I go too far in my work, as I said, I'm a spiritual walker. Sometimes I'm going too far to one side and I'm
mhm,
seeing spirits pop up everywhere and I don't have a break. So sometimes I need to ask for that break.
yes,
But there's that line, there's a very, very fine line that if I'm not doing my work and being lazy, the universe lets me know as well.
mhm,
So I'm just walking this tight line of like my energy, but I don't feel like anybody's a drain on my energy. I think it's like anything, if you overdo it and don't look after your emotional and mental and energetic health, you're going to feel drained. And I do have some things that help me out as well. It's kind of like taking your spiritual vitamins, I guess, like your
mhm.
green auras and your
Yeah.
grounding and all that kind of stuff, your crystals.
Mm.
I think that's just looking after your general psychic health.
Yeah, I've just actually made a plan. I've been pretty much full on the computer for about 2 weeks solid,
Hmm.
and I just said to my husband before that starting tomorrow, I'm going to get up and do some grounding in the morning, start walking around, in the gardens because I just feel like I just don't feel right.
Hmm.
So, but I've been doing a lot of on-screen work trying to upgrade. So I'm taking the magazine to a more interactive model, hence the
Yes.
video. So, the right side of the brain controls creativity.
Hmm.
Does it also control the connection to spirit, or is that? I've often wondered this because we're always told you're either left or right brained. There's very few people have both kind of.
Hmm.
You're either logical or you're creative. But I've always thought that the more spiritual connection would actually be on the right side with the creative side, but maybe it isn't.
My theory is like as I said, because everyone's ideas and thoughts
Mm,
are valid, but this is what I've searched in with my own feelings and my own experience. I do believe spirit and imagination are very one. We've been told this imagination being the right brains and all that, a feminine, masculine side. So I believe everything starts your manifestation. imagination and all that kind of stuff starts in the creative brain. I believe everyone has this ability. It's just some people have stronger muscles than others. So your spiritual self, your imaginative self, your creative self all come from the right hemisphere. Um, I believe imagination, your spirituality, and your manifestation are all one. Sometimes it's a very more colorful than some other people, and that's why they're labeled creatives. But creatives also are the biggest problem solvers in the world, and they do manifest a lot of their ideas in the world. And then sometimes it's not as physical as creating a new invention. Sometimes it's bringing a story in the world that's going to influence others quite profoundly. Like, there's so many children's stories that are being manifested in the world that sort of just affect the psyche and soul to help people grow up to rediscover themselves and become better people or overcome challenges. So I believe that all our ideas manifest in the right side of the brain. Then we got the left side of the brain, which is kind of, to me, is more the masculine. We bring those ideas, everything that's been flourishing in the right side of the brain, into the left side of the brain, and that's where we make the decisions to act on it or to bring it into the world. So I think it requires both sides of the brain, and we do use both of the sides of the brain. So it's just some people have stronger muscles than others,
Mm-hmm.
or have experiences that are led one way or the other. But I believe everyone can use both sides of the brain. It's just trusting in yourself and allowing them to work together to bring your ideas to life. And I think that's why we have that consciousness, to absorb ideas from outside of ourselves, bring them in and make them our own, then sort of, I guess, recycle those ideas and bring it out to the world. So I think the right one is more ourselves and what we can feed the world, where our left self is reevaluating, taking in the world. It's kind of like a filtration system. You bring
Mm.
in the world,
It's a good way of explaining it, actually, a filtration system. Yeah.
you recycle it with your own magic, and then bring it out again through expression.
Yeah, and it's also, of course, the left side being the more rational side. So anything that's a little bit too imaginative might need a little bit of, um, patting down. The left brain's there to do that.
Yes.
Okay. So
Mhm.
have you ever felt yourself being taken to a higher vibrational level when creating your artwork? Was there a particular piece that you were just on a certain, you kind of zoned out and you found yourself somewhere a little bit special?
I have to say, most of the work that I invest myself into, there's obviously drawings I just do it for fun, but most of the work that I've actually invest myself with, I am taken away. I just do my art. And there's been times where I've been roused on by my husband because I haven't done housework, or I even sometimes I don't even feed myself. I don't even sleep because I'm just sort of somewhere else, off with the fairies, he says,
Hmm.
because I'm just so emotionally involved in what I do. It's just sometimes I don't even know how I do it. I just channel it through my body and it's just there. Sometimes it feels like I'm just waking up and it's just there. And it's a really amazing feeling knowing that I'm an instrument for that, because sometimes I feel like the artwork isn't from me, it's actually from somewhere else.
Hmm.
And I'm just painting it.
Channeling.
And, hmm
Yeah, I had the same thing happen when I was writing my books. I'd go to a library at 10 o'clock in the morning, and then I'd kind of zone out, and I'd wake up at 2:30 and with my alarm going off. I did that for about a 3-year period, and I channeled 3 books. It was amazing.
mm,
And some of the stuff that I channeled, I channel Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and on the Tuesday, Thursday, and the Saturday, I would edit what I had done the day previous, and I've researched then as well to see if there was anything else out there, and maybe because I was always interested to know where the hell did that come from. I mean, I now know I was kind of dipping into the Akashic record or whatever,
mhm,
because what would happen is when I did the research, I'd find names in that I had extracted through the channeling were actual historical people,
mm,
which was, yeah, it was just amazing. Must admit, I was a little disappointed doing all my research on during my own book, because I discovered that J.K. Rowling and the Harry Potter books were not as original as I thought they were. She actually drew a lot from myth and historical And I mean, she still wove a beautiful tale,
Mhm.
an interesting tale. But I remember thinking, oh, wow, I was completely overwhelmed by her creativity until I started researching the books.
Uh,
So,
yeah, it's interesting how that comes about, like how you can thought you had an original idea, but then something comes up and something comes up. I think it's just the channeling process. There's so many different vehicles, and you just have to understand that you're one of them as well. Because I'm sure I I thought I was the only one who was doing this work, but then the world was showing me other people and other people and other people, and I'm quite amazed by them as well. But I think it's just these information needs to come through, and then are you going to be the vehicle for it as well?
yes, exactly. So, yeah, and that's why two people in two different parts of the world have the same idea, generate
Hmm.
a prototype, and everyone goes, "Whoa, how did you think of that at the same time as I did this?" And yeah, so it explains a lot. Explains it.
Yes.
So, how have you and I'm assuming you have a belief system here, by the way. How have you incorporated your belief system into your work? So I don't know if
Um,
you're a religious person. I've always thought of you more as spiritual, but I don't know for sure.
it was very interesting because I was born into religion, like a religious family, and I did go to a Catholic school. And I was very lucky that my Catholic school was very open minded because they allowed a lot of the Aboriginal culture to come into it because I grew up in an Aboriginal community as well. So it was like
Okay.
a mixture of Christianity as well as the Aboriginal dream time as well. This is something I've reflected back on because my spiritual work is very, I guess, distant from my upbringing. Even though I do believe in the values of the Catholic religion, it's just I'm sort of a bit separate from it just
Mm,
because of my own ideas of the world or my own experiences of the world. So I'm very grateful that they incorporated it too. But I've believed in love, like, you know what I mean, as being the biggest connection anyone could have for each other. And love's always being my guiding radar. And if I don't feel love or I can't feel love for something, I either learn how to love it and be close to it, or I just learn to allow it to be and let it go. And that sort of was always my belief system is learning to love things or learning to love myself and to grow with that. And I think that's where these ideas grew and grew and grew. And I think that was important to me because, as I said, these supernatural things I experience or being a spirit walker, there's been a few things that have caused me fear, to be afraid, and that I've never been able to explain. And I think it's that guiding essence of love that's allowed me to sort of fully embrace I guess, more scarier part of life that I couldn't explain to people. And for a long time, it was lonely as well because you can't just say, well, I see these things until
I
I
see
became
dead
an
people.
adult. Until I became an adult, yeah, it sort of feels like very weird. But then you become an adult and you find other people like you, and you just realize that
Mm,
it's not so different to others. Yeah.
mm. Yeah, it's nice when you find your tribe. You kind of yeah, think to yourself, well, I am normal after all. There is, I just wasn't born in the right space. With the I mean, hundreds of years ago, you would have been built. You probably would have ended up being the medicine person in a village if we'd stayed a bit more tribal.
I most likely, or the one running off with animals or something.
Yes, I couldn't see you being a hunter. That's for sure.
No, no,
Definitely not. No, you would
no.
have been the token vegan of the village.
Yeah, or the
That's
ones
what you
running
should
with
call
the
your
wolves.
podcast, the token vegan. Oh, you're not vegan though, are you? So,
No,
but
but
if
I believe in balance. So, like, I believe that
Mhm,
we take more than we need.
exactly. Yeah, I do agree. So, would you mind sharing with our listeners and the readers the extreme signs you received from the universe that steered you towards manifesting what you believed in and your creation of art that could heal? So, this was an experience, I think we discussed it on the radio,
Mhm.
um, which was so extreme that, well, it was your wake up call, wasn't it, if I remember rightly?
Yes,
So,
yes.
I'll let you speak about that now.
Okay, so I've always like as I said, I've always considered myself an artist. I didn't really feel like there was much. Well, I thought art was very personal to me because I've always been able to explore different worlds and that through my art since I've been a little girl, and it's something that sort of kept me, I guess, healthy because I lost my mom and my dad wasn't available for me when I was a little girl. So I thought maybe that this was just my imagination for me, just creating my art and creating these little worlds for me. So I felt some sort of connection with Earth or connection with life through these stories and paintings that I presented to myself. But as I grew older, you sort of jump into the real world and try that as well. And then I didn't do my art and I really felt it. I really felt not doing my art. And I think I talked to you about this before, the realization of losing myself and trying to be like everyone else. Because art's always, since a little girl, I think I was 5 years old and said I want to be an artist. Um, but I sort of thought, no, that's can't be my reality. I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. So I just decided to do what everyone said I was good at. And I've always been good with people. So I thought, oh, maybe retail, hospitality.
Mm,
I'll be really good. So I stopped doing my art, stopped doing the things I loved, because everyone around me told me that you're a dreamer, do something real.
mm,
And I think I said this before I started going downhill. I got in a really deep depression. I was really quite suicidal, and I really thought I was going to lose my life. And I got a lot of help with this as well. And then I started getting back to my art and I started to rediscover myself and create and painting. And I also did an art therapy course as well during this time, just to discover that what I was feeling and thinking and being guided to inside was real. And just by picking up that paintbrush was a probably cheaper way of going to therapy. And I started reconnecting myself and rediscovering myself and started really talking to myself as well. And during this path, I was getting a lot of assistance, seeing other people that probably were on the path I needed to be at this time. And in one weekend, three psychics told me that I should do this with my art, that this is what I'm going to do with my art. I think at the time I probably giggled at them and laughed at this because, as I said before, this was a very shadow side of me. I kept it deep, deep, deep down,
yes.
like really down, like I couldn't express myself. If I express myself, I might scare people. If I express myself, I might scare myself. How can I tell people this is happening to me? So shove it down. And I just found when I lifted that fence, it went a bit crazy for a while, but I really found a relief. Like,
Everyone does. Everyone has their moments. Don't worry about it.
I really felt a relief. It was restarting drawing and creating and connecting people with healing. And I started doing it, and was getting excited about people connecting with it and actually seeing people progress forward. And it was an interesting path because I was progressing forward with other people as well. Like, so it wasn't just me and my own journey; it was me and a journey with others, which made it really more exciting as well for me.
So the psychics that you spoke to, are they still friends or?
Yes, they are still friends, and I've kept a
Mm,
really close connection with them as well.
excellent. That's what you need. So now I know you perform a clearing prior to the commencement of a piece of art. What benefits do you derive from doing that? And how exactly, what do you use? You kind of smudge yourself, or is it
Um,
ritual based? Mhm.
it's a bit more ritual based. I used to go through a big ritual, but I found that now that I'm more comfortable being in that energy of myself and being in the energy of others, because you know how there's always growth periods.
Mhm.
All I need to do is I invite Mother Earth and her spirits to come with me. I pretend I'm a tree and I ground my feet into the ground and I pretend that there's roots going to the heaven and I'm just in the middle. And then I believe the energy comes through me from the heavens and the energy comes through me through the earth. And I hold a ball of light for people and myself. And this is where it all starts. So I got the energy of the world around me when I do the clearing and do the work for others. And that seems to work for me now. And when the reading's finished or the artwork's finished, I just imagine everything going back to the earth where it
Hmm.
belongs and back to the heaven where it belongs, and the other person's energy going back to them as well where it belongs. So I feel like that sort of is enough to look after my vessel as well as the person I'm reading for and drawing for or
Hmm.
creating for. And it sort of seems to allow not just the guides to come through, but the energy of the world to come through, because I believe having the energy of the world and the energy of Mother Earth is a very protecting and nurturing experience. And Mother Earth can hold a lot of energy for others and a lot of love for others. And I feel like I embody that when I do this work, and then releasing it sort of feels like I'm not just the one releasing it, Mother Earth's releasing it as well, and
That's
Father Sky. Mhm,
amazing. Cool.
mhm.
Look, you instinctively feel patterns. Yeah. Are you also affected by other artists' work? And how do you respond to things like sacred geometry and mandalas? Do they kind of space you out? I find mandalas and sacred geometry. I actually lose time if I stare at them too long.
I guess for me, the sacred geometry is just remembering how the world really works. Maybe because I did, when I was at uni, I did a natural history art um, program. So it's just that always fascinated me how everything has that mathematical pattern of spirals and spirals, and everything slowly gets bigger. And that's what it reminds me when I see mandala is the expansion and the growth that for us it's omnipresent. Like you can't actually explain it, you know what I mean? It's just those patterns that are always going to expand.
Mm,
And a logical mind can never fathom how much this can expand. I think that's what I see when I look at geometrical patterns. Sometimes I get readings through it, sometimes I look at art and there's a reading for me or there's guidance for me, and I just allow that to come to me. So that's how I respond to sacred geometry. What was the other patterns, like the
us,
patterns of art?
uh, Mandalas and other artists' work. So,
Yep.
so people like Francie Griffin's work and that, and uh,
Yes.
yeah.
I don't really have a favorite artist. I just allow artworks to really communicate to me and speak to me when I see them.
Hmm.
I think that's probably a reflection of me on page or a reflection of the spirit on my page. Some paintings really just stick out to me, and I just ask why and I just allow the pictures to communicate to me and talk to me and let me hear what I need to hear from it.
Mm. So, yeah, I find mandalas in particular. I just lose time. I don't know why. I just kind of doze off, or it's not really dozing. It's trance. It's trance, isn't it? Go into trance a little bit.
Yep.
I'm probably very highly susceptible to being hypnotized, actually, thinking about it. I should keep away from those hypnotherapists, shouldn't I?
Yeah.
So I've got a good friend who's one. That's why I'm saying that. So you obviously have a strong connection to nature, but what about the outer world? Do you feel a connection to the universe as well, the astral?
I believe so. At first, I started just seeing animals and all that kind of stuff, but as I said, with the different layers and layers and layers, I see things that are just can't be explained by the world.
Hmm.
Like I remember, this is before I sort of acknowledged my gift. I woke up in the middle of the night seeing all these messages. I thought I was in another place. Like, obviously, it could have been aliens or someone trying to communicate to me, because I would see this weird writing on my wall. And I'd be awake because I'd turn around to my partner and go, "Did you see that?" And he goes, "No, I missed it." But it was just things like this that I see and experience that I do believe I am not just of this world. I believe that there are things outside this world that need to be acknowledged as well. I think most of my work, I like to keep them grounded and try to keep everything here. But sometimes when I travel, I see things that really can't be explained
Mm.
on a mental earth sort of plane. It's just these beautiful beings that I see, and these experiences that I see as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going around. So
Mm.
I think a lot of people, the programming is just so intense that they instantly forget what they've seen. It's kind of bizarre, really.
Yes.
I've been with people and I've seen it, and I've said to them like 10 seconds later, you know, hey, what do you reckon about that? What, that was a bit odd. And then, what? What are you talking about? Seriously, it's been like 10 seconds. Like 10 seconds ago, didn't you just see that? It's like, no.
Mm.
They look at you like you're the odd one and you just give up.
Uh,
So,
I think I think some people just forget because there was an experience that I had a couple of weeks ago, and I think it's probably one of my guardians just telling me to get home. Because before I used to see it like in another dimension, but I just think the more I do this work, the more it becomes apparent to me that these actually are there. Um, I was walking home and I saw this really, really, really huge dog, and I thought it was actually there, just staring at me. Just staring at me, and it's sort of like talking to me. It's like, "Oh, you got to get home now. You got to get home now." Kind of gave me a little bit of a jump scare because it's not like your typical dog. It looked like a big wolf and it shouldn't just be in suburbia. So
yeah.
obviously there's a quick part of me that went back to have another look and it was gone. It's
And
like,
there's that whole
okay,
telepathic talking to you thing going on.
yeah, exactly. So I thought, okay, let's go. I'm going back. Let's go home. It told me to get home fast. But before, like, this is like up leveling because it happens to me a lot. But I think that sort of taught me, okay, I've seen these people, like, I've seen them, or these things, or these animals, but I see them through my third eye. But now I'm actually seeing them there. It's like a big thing for me because it's like I have to learn to know that this new part of me is real, you know what I mean? Without being afraid of it as well. So I think a lot of us see it, but as you said, we forget about it, don't we? Because we don't want to acknowledge it.
Yeah, it's there was a really good Doctor Who episode. I think it was the David no, yeah, it was David Tennant, I think, when he was in the Doctor. And it was about the silence, which are these, do you know the very famous artwork called The Scream?
Yes.
That was what the creatures looked like. And basically, they kind of were dressed in suits. And basically, when you saw them, when you turned around, your memory instantly gets wiped of them. And
Hmm.
what they do in this show to ensure that they knew that they had seen one, they would put they'd put a strike on their arms in pen, and then at one point they turn back to each other and they're all covered in marks because they've seen them
Oh,
so
wow.
many, and they don't have no memory of it. But that's how when I saw that Doctor Who episode, I thought, oh my god, I bet you that's based on this. What happens, because
Mm.
it just happens too often now. You see something weird, and you know that you shared it with somebody, but then you'll ask them about it like literally 15 seconds later, and it's gone for them. And you're
Yes.
just like, what's the difference here? Is it? I just don't understand.
I've been very lucky though. I've had people that I've been able to reflect those things on, and I've noticed a few young people. I think it's probably a little bit of destiny there that have come to me and just said, "Well, I'm seeing these things," and I had a chat to them because I'm a little bit still guarded of talking to people outside what I like outside my comfort zone about things because I don't want them to lead them on a place where they're not ready to lead. Because I remember helping someone with my spirit animals and I said like I helped him like train him up to where I was and it ended up scaring too much. So I didn't want to do that to another person. So I'm very cautious about how I share my stuff with younger people because I don't want to be the influence for them. I want them to find their own way to coming into their spiritual selves. I don't think I really have a name, but there's other people that are like me out there that sort of don't understand these visions that are happening to them, and I want to guide them the right way, so they're not feel of fear like I was as a child. So
Mm.
I told I felt comfortable telling this person about my dog experience. He said, I've seen that as well. And I've gone on these meditations and that. And I'm frightened about things. And it's like, okay, I think I need to hold you under my wing a little bit and give you a little bit of guidance here so you don't feel like when we first have these experiences, you feel like a little bit crazy. But now
Mm.
you know that you're not crazy. It's, as you said, it happens.
But we're not crazy at all. It's
No.
society just isn't. majority of society just isn't ready to accept the fact. In fact, if anyone's crazy, it's them because they're denying their denial is so extreme. It's hmm, blows me away sometimes. You know, I must admit now I only really talk about certain things with others that have experienced it because it's kind of a pointless task a lot of the time, and you just get a name or a nickname from it. And,
I
yeah,
I understand it. My husband sort of doesn't. He's not really a part of this world. He's part of the other world, but he just. I guess he loves me to see me excel. Like you know what I mean. So he just allows me to be. But we all have those friends that just think we're off with like a little bit more off with the fairies, don't we?
oh yeah, it's like there's certain groups that you just wouldn't bring anything up, and I've mostly because you just learned. I think all you need is one. I was at a dinner with some friends of my husband's who went to school with him, and they asked what I was doing now, so I kind of went lightly over the magazine and said, "Oh, it's a little alternative," and that's all I kind of said. And then Greg went, "Oh yeah, it's all about ufology," and I'm thinking, "Oh, why did you have to say?" I actually think kind of cringing, like going, "Why did you have to tell them?" Because within like 10 seconds, you don't believe in that bullshit, do you? Straight away, and
Oh
I'm just
wow.
saying, I believe in programming, and he didn't get it because but I thought it was funny. I thought I was funny.
Ah, I thought it's like it is like that though. Trying
Yeah,
to, I'm not saying convert people, but there's no absolutely like we're accepting of them and their beliefs, but as soon as you say something that's a little bit out of their beliefs, there's the wall, and it's as you said, it's hard to break down. So I allow people to come to me when they need me, because
exactly. Yeah.
I don't believe in building walls.
Yeah. I usually I can always tell when before I've met somebody if they've heard about me because they have this stupid goofy smile on their face. Have you seen that smile? The one that's like, yeah, yeah, I'm already prejudging you before I've actually met you.
Yes, yes, I have.
So no, it's the I actually for my last uni course I had to make an advert and I did one on experiencer trauma.
Mhm.
So, and I kind of twisted it halfway through the ad. Initially, it just looks like it's a therapy group and they've all got PTSD from various things. And then halfway through the ad, I have it come up to the board where it says a therapy group for abductees and paranormal experiences. And then I reveal what actually traumatized them, like a ghost, an ET, and I have a little skip thing, and I got a HD for it because it's the first time anyone's ever done that. I think actually, shown that kind of side because that's like people like you and I. We can take this stuff, but then
Mhm.
there's the people that have had bad experiences
Mhm.
and they're laughed at and made fun of. I don't know in your area, but in the ufology, the things people will say to somebody who's actually got PTSD from an abduction experience is shocking. I've actually sat and I've actually said to people, I said, "You do realise she's been traumatized and you're laughing in her face." I said, "If she'd just come back from war, would you be doing that?" They don't,
Yeah.
people just don't, they have a real disconnect between what is trauma and what isn't. Mm,
Yeah. I can imagine. Like
mm,
even I get that look when I tell my friends what I do. It's like,
yes.
okay, let's be nice to her, but I'm not going to comment.
And I won't be sharing a cab home with it later. So, yeah, it's funny because they're interested. They want to know because they look at you as potentially entertaining because of it, but they're still happy to say you're a bullshit artist to your face. Do you know
Mhm.
what I mean? It's just bizarre, really, the way that people behave. And you know, as I said, I barely talk to people now about this stuff, and it's only in situations like that, like where Greg kind of goes, "Oh," I just look at him like, "Don't do that again."
But it's just so interesting. We have the best intentions for people, no matter what they believe or what that is. It's like, I'll send you love anyway. You don't understand me, but I'll send you love.
it's, do you know what really rocks me though? Like I've done this at a couple of weddings. We go to weddings, and this gets out what I do or what I've had an experience, and then within that night, I can guarantee at least three people will approach me when no one else is around. They'll sit down and they'll tell me of something freaky that's happened to them, and they'll say,
Mm,
"What was that?" And I will actually play counselor in situations like that. I can guarantee that will happen if I go to an event and somebody gets whiff of what I do. They'll come and they'll actually say, "Well, not that I believe in this bullshit, but this really weird thing happened to me at a BNS I attended out at so and so," and they'll lay out, and it's like a full abduction sometimes. What's happened to them, and they just, and they've got all the signs. They've
mhm.
got the missing time, they've got the clothes are on backwards, or they didn't know how they travelled that distance in so short a time, and I'll be going there. I says, "Oh well, we'd class you as
Mhm.
that's as a CE6. You've actually, I believe, had contact." And
Yep.
I'll just tell them where they can go to for a meeting or something, or suggest they go and chat to a counsellor or something. Because,
Mhm.
as I said, it's when people, particularly men, when men lose time and
Mhm.
they think something's happened. And unfortunately, Hollywood has drilled into every male on the planet that every time you get abducted, somebody probes your ass. So I
I
mean,
don't think that's what they do.
if they don't,
They're just curious.
it
But
just seriously, Hollywood has a lot to answer for. It's just shocking. So
yeah.
yes, so and I don't know. It seems to affect the men worse, the heterosexual men worse than anyone else.
Well, they like to have their feet on the ground. They don't like being unsure of themselves, and these things bring a lot of insurity to people. But one of the boys from work came in to say the other day that they were actually NASA and that were actually saying that the aliens and that are true. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
It's
they found, yeah, they've been kind of letting it out. They've renamed them. They're UAPs now. um, Unidentified aerial phenomena. So yeah, they're no longer UFO, they're UAP. Yeah, I was reading the article and thinking, yeah, there's no big fanfare about it though. It was just slipped out as a kind of a minor press release. It wasn't
Mhm.
like a big presentation or anything. And now everyone's going, well, if you're going to announce that ETs are real, how about doing a big, doing a bit more of a drum roll. But
Uh,
they back in 2001, most of the bigger countries released their UFO reports, and
mhm.
there's like thousands of encounters that have been documented.
Yep.
Um, I couldn't read them all. I started reading the British ones. I went for about 3 years of England, then I jumped over to the US ones, then I went to a couple of the European countries, then I went to New Zealand and Australia, and yeah, I mean, this stuff is, I mean, to someone like me, I just think it's second nature now.
Mhm.
That I'm now along the road of trying to work out what's going on,
Yep.
what's their role, because it's an odd role. They keep on wiping memories.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
obviously they don't, and the only reason I can like foresee them not wanting us to remember things is because there is some element of monitoring and control in play. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm interested to find out more. Mm.
I'm sure you will. I guess there's that sort of fear of credibility, maybe, like, you know what I mean? Because they've kept us away from us so long that it's like, oh, how am I going to be credible if I'm telling them now? I don't know.
It's been like the worst kept secret though, because I
Mm,
mean, I'm amazed they've actually, well, I suppose the media again, media has a lot, or the propaganda, the mainstream media is responsible for making a lot of people feel crap.
mhm.
So
That's true. That's
yeah,
true.
that's if you've got the media on your side and the media's broadcasting, 24 hours, 7 days a week, that, people have mental issues if they claim to see certain things. I mean,
Mhm.
it's like people who are mental illness, like schizophrenics and that. I don't actually think they're mentally ill. I think they're shamans.
I feel that there are medicine men that haven't been guided properly.
Yeah, yeah, and not all of them, of course, but I reckon. In fact, there was a gentleman, an American medicine man. I think it was about in the late 90s, went through an asylum in the States, one of the biggest ones, and basically walked out and said like 75% of the people in there were shamans,
Hmm.
and they hadn't been raised in like a tribal caring environment and taught and mentored, so they'd gone the other way. So they're actually now, quite crazy because they didn't know how to deal with the voices, so what was being
Well,
changed to them. Mm.
even with what I experienced, as I said, when I first started this journey or and accepted it, it was quite scary and I really didn't have a choice. So I can imagine, even for myself, if I didn't find people like you, what my path could have been like. Because, when you hear, like, see things and that aren't meant to be real, you sort of have to question what's real, don't you?
Well, if you're surrounded completely by no one else that's had an experience, then yeah, you would think there was something wrong with you. And unfortunately, because we're suppressed a little bit, it is difficult sometimes for people to find their tribe. The hearing voices stuff is particularly misdiagnosed, though, isn't it? I mean, at least if you have an abduction, it's, well, yeah, if they had a crazy night sometime, got drunk, you can probably get away with it. But hearing voices constantly, no, that's a lock. I've actually had a friend who's a medium. She was committed to Belmont, which is down the south of Brisbane. Her
Hmm.
family actually committed her to Belmont,
Hmm.
and that was
Yes.
a year ago, Cassie.
I can, yeah.
Yeah.
But
So
even
mm,
even me, like, I hardly can listen to white noise now because I have messages through white noise. I hear people singing to me, and everyone's different. Like, every message that comes through is quite different. I have singing, and sometimes I have a story. And my husband listens to white noise at night, and sometimes it's like, okay, because I still have that normal mental mind of like, I just want to be Earth. I'm trying to sleep. Let me just be Earth. But then there's the white noise, and someone serenaded me. Sometimes I hear a story, and that's like, I know my husband needs it, but at the moment I need quiet time. I need earthly time. So, can you please just leave? We'll talk about this later, or come visit me in my dreams where I can feel like I'm sleeping.
hmm you can get noise counselling earphones. Did you know earplugs?
Mm,
So you could pop some earplugs in and you wouldn't hear anything.
yeah, I think that's probably a good idea because it's okay when it's just a white noise, but when messages come through white noise, it's like, I'm not in the mood for this, guys.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely get hold of some of those. so so have you ever yourself had a supernatural experience? One that you wouldn't define as spiritual, but more as, whoa, there's a very odd looking creature to my right.
Well, as I said, it happens to me quite often now. I've told you about the dog, but even at my work, it's like I should really quit there because I think it's a portal or something because I always see people walking around there.
Mhm.
But lucky I know that it's just normal for me. But usually I see a little girl running around. It's like, oh. And then I thought it was actually a little girl, but then when I go look for her so I can look for her parents, that little girl wasn't there. There's always just customers pretending to shop, like, in my place. It's kind of like I don't think they recognize me. Like, my work's really fascinating. I
Mhm.
don't think they recognize me. It's kind of like they're shopping there. It's kind of like an old ghost town. Like, they shop and they look around and all this kind of stuff. And I catch them in the corner of my eyes all the time. And sometimes it gives me a bit of anxiety as well because, as I said, sometimes I just want to be in the grounded reality. And sometimes I can. Sometimes I can go to work and it's not there, but I usually have to do a lot of energetic work for it to go to work and not see what's going on there. But I know what's going on there.
Mm.
And sometimes I'm really in it. I see the whole, I guess, kind of like a drama just played out because they're just living their life and I'm just living my life, but I just see them living their life and they don't see me. I think that's probably the biggest one that's going on for now because I feel like I really don't can't control that one. Like, usually with my spirit animal readings and that,
Mhm.
there's a specific purpose there and I ask them to come to me. when I go to work, I don't ask these people to be there. They're just there and they're just living their life. So I can't really do anything to clear it or
Maybe
anything.
it's like a time loop thing. They
I'm
might
not
be
sure.
on repeat. I was a friend of mine who's a paranormal investigator. She was explaining the concept to me the other night. How some people are just in this repeat mode. So next time you see them, pay attention to little things they're doing, and then the following time, see if they repeat the same things. Like if
Mhm.
they go in the same stores, if they push the trolley a certain way, or if they have a trolley always with them, and it might actually be just a time repeat, which is a very different thing. And you can, yeah, that's associated with portals. So you're probably right. So
Yep.
what this is in a retail store of some type, is it?
Yeah, this is in the place I work. I
Oh,
won't
okay.
give any names though, because I don't
Uh,
want to scare away any
in,
customers if they're not
in the
like us.
in the
But
warehouse, in
yeah,
warehouse area,
it's
yeah.
it's a warehouse. Yeah. But yeah, I kind of thought it was a portal because most spirits that ask to come, they're actually a two-way conversation. Like I talk to them, they talk to me. I can ask them to leave if I want them to leave as well. It's like I'm
Mm,
feeling uncomfortable. Can you give me a little bit of space? I'm not in that time now. Um, but these guys, they're just shopping, doing their own thing. It's like, okay, that's happening again. Oh, that's interesting. Sometimes it's amusing at work because work can be sometimes a drag. So sometimes just
mm,
being an observer of this happening is quite interesting.
mm.
Hmm.
Yes, I like people watching. It's one of my favorite things. I
Yep.
I do find when I go to shopping centres or well-populated areas, if I'm sitting on a bench, I will always have somebody come and sit next to me, and they'll talk and they'll tell me something, and then they'll disappear. And I'm pretty sure that they're some type of entity. It's just
Hmm.
bizarre, and that's pretty normal.
Yes.
So I think it's also they do come to places like retail areas a lot, and it's to have some type of contact or pass on something.
Hmm.
So yeah, I've had that happen a couple of times, and at bus stops in particular, I've had a lot of contact at bus stops. I don't know why. So
I think I don't know, just through my own research, I think I'm not sure if it's portal, but to open a portal apparently you need a lot of energy. So maybe highly dense places of popularity creates a lot of energy and maybe that's how they feel like they can easily connect with us.
mm,
Um that's just a theory of mine through my research. I'm not sure if that's practical, but going down this road, I had to think about a lot of things, I guess, and come up with my own conclusions as well as research ones as well.
mm.
Hmm.
Well, if it is the repeat thing, they may not actually be there. It may just be a memory replaying. So
Hmm.
you may not actually be able to talk to them. So apparently, but it's interesting stuff. You should see if you can get something on film. That'd be kind of cool. Then you could really compare if it's what's happening.
Yes.
Mm.
I'll see what I can do because I'm not really meant to have my phone or anything like that at work, but I've just observed it and I've asked other people if they've observed it that's kind of like me, and they said, yeah, I see them.
Well, see dead people too.
It's kind of like that casual thing when you're talking to someone like you and I in public. It's like, oh, do you see them? Yeah, I see them. Okay.
The only ones that bother me are the shadow people. They scare the shit out of me.
Mm,
I haven't slept without a night light for probably the last 10 years. I always
yeah.
have a light on. I hate when I go places and I
Mm.
have to rig something up. So yeah.
Uh, I I feel quite protected in my home now. Like I got a new home. I feel like it's a water home, like because it's very like flow. Like there's a lot of flow in this. I feel very protected here. But at my old home, I'd have to have the like door shut because I just felt. I know what you're talking about, the shadow people looking in on me, like someone looking in on me every night, observing me while I sleep. And I think my husband said, "Why do you have to shut the door?" And I said, "Well, I feel like somebody's watching me all the time." And
Mm.
he goes, "Don't creep me out like that." I said, "Well, it's just true." But this place is quite protected, I feel.
Oh, that's good. Yeah,
Hmm.
I don't actually fear anything. It's just creepy, when the shadows it's basically I just look at the corner or something and suddenly the shadow will actually take a shape. It's like, oh, Right. Okay. Didn't need that, you know. Can't you just pretend you're just a shadow?
I guess it's just to wake up and saying, we're still here.
Yeah. I haven't seen them for a while though, but I haven't had the lights off for 10 years.
Yes.
So yeah, I usually find when I go places though, it's there's always something in the room.
Mm.
Like the last place I stayed was down at down near a mountain down near South Wales, and I unpacked in the room and I put everything away, and on the bed I just went to the bathroom, but I left on the bed my water bottle near the bed on the bedstand, and on the bed I threw my jacket that I was going to put on to go for the walk. So it was
Mm.
near a mountain, so we are going to go on a bit of a hike. By the time I came back to the bed, there was a feather on the bed waiting for me. So it had a little visitor in between. So, and I get a lot of that sort of thing. I get lots of feathers. I don't know if feathers are a good omen or not. They're usually white, and sometimes they're white and black, but mostly they're white.
Feathers usually come from guardians, so someone just saying we're looking after you. So
Mm,
it's a good, like, we're looking out for you is usually a feathers sign.
mm.
So
So yeah, I get lots of feathers. I did a road trip about 3 years ago, and I came back with about 14 feathers from this 20-day trip. So that was interesting. Yeah, and they were always like in my path or blew into me, or I opened my bag and found them there, or or they were in the room.
yeah.
And when I don't know how they could have got back. There's a lot of that sort of thing. Mm.
Mm.
So what's next for Cassie Gregory in the end of 2019 and next year? Are you
Well,
obviously be launching the book further, hopefully?
yes.
Mhm.
Well, this year I've released my emotional. It's called Connect and Color. It's a book to help children emotionally develop. So it's sort of to help them really connect with themselves and sort of really to understand themselves better. Because I feel like there's a lot of mental activities out there like maths, English, and that trying to,
You
I
keep
guess,
talking. I'll go grab it. I've got my copy
help
here.
them. Okay, to help them mold in society and to help them to make sure they align with society. So this Connect and Color book is actually help them to look inside themselves and to really listen to their own voice above others and to really try to understand what their emotional needs are. It's for people who are aged probably from 6 to 12. So it is quite a young person's book because I really feel that's the time when they start going to school. And even though that I feel that there's some creative pursuits for children, I feel that they're starting to also be indoctrined to how we're meant to live in society. So I don't want them to lose themselves completely through that indoctrination of school and just show them there's another way to reflect on themselves and their own needs and show them to learn their own way as well because every child learns differently as you know. So this is what I envisioned when I created these books. Yeah, so this is it. um, as I said, it's for young, probably about 5 6 to 12-year old,
Mm-hmm.
to help children to discover their emotional self. On the back, I wrote, build a stronger and deeper connection with your child while they monitor the emotional well-being of your son, daughter with our Connect and Colour books. Providing a fun and engaging learning experience for you and your child. It allows emotional development through self-expression while providing you with the means to observe and intervene. So that's just about the book and how to use it. But
Mm-hmm.
these are some of the animals that I felt would be the great characters for
You
the
might
book.
have to unblur your background. It's
Okay, I just got to find how to do that. Um, there we go. Is that better?
oh, much better. Yes.
I'll just do a quick flick because
So William is feeling sad. Has anything ever made you sad? What do you do to help you feel better? Oh, okay. So they get to colour in and also interact.
have a story. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's more about the story and engaging with the characters to see. Um, just the very simple like
Mm.
questions to that kids aren't encouraged. I don't think kids are really encouraged to look deeper with their feelings. As, so it's just a book to help with that.
Lovely elephant. Mm.
She's one of my favorites.
Mm. Oh, I like the wolf the best. Mm.
Mm, okay. Yeah.
Now, for those that don't know, Cassie also does Cassie Conscious Connections with Cassie in each issue, where she it's kind of like the old Dear Abby style, where she gives advice. Oh, look, is that a beautiful cat behind you? What's her name?
That's her name's Anixia. I call it Oni.
Oni. She's
Yeah.
beautiful.
She doesn't like leaving me very long, so I've made a little place in my office for her so she can sort of sit back
Oh,
and
she's
observe.
lovely. Yes, I've got two cats, so but they divide. They have favourites. They have my two daughters and I, and they kind of rotate around us. So sometimes we're flavour of the month. Hmm.
Mm.
So
Oh, I'm always on his flavor of the month. Like even we give her all these toys and that, but she just wants me all the time.
yeah,
Mm.
it's, yes. When I'm flavour, it's like I can't even go to the toilet without but them sitting there watching.
I shut the door one time and she kept banging, banging, banging on the door. So I opened it for her. It's like she came in, looked around the toilet, it's like, oh, that's all you're doing, and then walked out.
Yeah,
She
bizarre,
just,
isn't it?
it is.
Chester, who's my very fluffy one, she actually sits there and just waits. She just sits there and watches you pee, basically, and it's just really pro. It's like, do you seriously need to just sit there and Oh, it's funny.
Mm.
They're very odd cats, so I love that.
Um,
Okay, well, thank you very much, Cassie. That was great. And by the way, I got some feedback from Chris and his
yes,
wife. You did in the last issue, and you were spot on.
yes, I usually get that coming back to me. I don't know how I do it. I think one time I sort of predicted somebody's death and I felt really, really awful about it. But then I sort of made that, like, I always think sometimes when it comes through, I try to make it as friendly as possible, you know what I mean? So
Mm,
I sort of think, like, I guess the person I was doing that reading for already knew. So I just sort of gave him that reminding. But I don't like when things like that come through, but
mm,
it does sometimes because the message is not for me, it's for the person. I just always need to remember that as well.
exactly.
Hmm.
Mm.